Welcome back to Inkkery. It's now less than a week until the Whispers in the World pre-release, so as I do with every set, it's time to make my predictions and give my thoughts on some of the new cards, and ranking what I believe to be 10 of the best. So let's get straight into it. Starting at number 10 is a card I'm a little bit biased towards, as I've really been enjoying Amber Emerald Circle of Life decks recently, and this card slots into that pretty perfectly. Mickey Mouse Amber Champion is a 4-cost inkable 2/5 that quests for 1, but with 2 fantastic abilities. Leading the way, your other Amber characters get +2 willpower, and Friendly Chorus. While you have 2 or more other Amber characters in play, this character gains Singer 8, which just so happens to be enough to sing a Circle of Life or Under the Sea on his own. Which in comparison to other singers like this 4-cost uninkable Tiana and this Cinderella, Mickey is a much better choice in my opinion, and giving Amber characters a similar to Rapunzel's Tower effect is also so useful. So I can see this Mickey featuring in a wide range of Amber decks, not just the Circle of Life builds, and he will end up being a major staple for sets to come. Coming up next at number 9 is our first legendary of the list, Hercules Mighty Leader. Herc is a ruby 4-cost uninkable that quests for 2 with 2 really interesting and unique abilities that I think will make Hercules see quite a bit of play. His first is almost like a worse version of Ward, but still useful. Ever Vigilant means this character can't be dealt damage unless he's being challenged. So unlike Ward, he can still be chosen for actions, but cannot be dealt damage or have damage counters placed on him unless the opponent actually challenges into him. And his second ability extends Ever Vigilant onto your other characters. While Hercules is exerted, your other heroes can't be dealt damage unless they're being challenged. My first thought for this card was that he'd actually be really nice in Ruby Steel challenge decks, as you can start your turn by challenging with Hercules, and it should be noted that Hercules doesn't actually take damage when he's challenging other characters, as he only takes damage when he himself is targeted for a challenge. But yeah, you start your turn off by challenging with Herc or singing or even questing, then your other heroes are free to challenge and take no damage while he's exerted. Also, this card would actually work really nicely in a bodyguard deck, as when you think about it, more often than not, your bodyguards are removed with actions. Cards like Minnie Mouse or the 6-cost bodyguard Herc become really difficult to deal with when damage cannot be applied to them without actions or songs like Strength of a Raging Fire. Moving on now to number 8, and another personal favourite of mine this set, and a card I'm so excited to try out, is Spooky Sight. I think this is perfectly balanced removal and a really great addition to the game. It's a 6-cost uninkable sapphire action that reads, put all characters with cost 3 or less into their player's inkwells face down and exerted. A really uniquely powerful card, which is going to require quite a bit of skill to know when and how to use this card properly. Of course, this card can help boost your ramp, and putting your own Tipo or other weak characters into the inkwell is going to be great, but also providing your opponent with that extra ink will prove detrimental at times and needs to be managed properly. I can see this card being so strong later in games, and against decks with limited card draw, could see players end up with not a lot of value in terms of how much ink they have compared to what they can actually use. So love it or hate it, I think this card will see plenty of play, and it needs to be respected and potentially played around when playing against Sapphire. Next up at number 7 is Malicious, Mean and Scary, a card that's got a lot of buzz surrounding it, and for good reason. MMS is a 3-cost inkable Emerald Song that puts 1 damage counter on each opposing character, giving it incredibly strong potential in terms of value depending on how wide the opposing board is. But the real power of this card is with its combos. Being an Emerald card, it synergizes really well with Fabled's Max Goof, being able to return it to your hand with Rebellious Teen, or to sing it again for free from your discard with Chart Topper. But as you may have already seen, the ultimate play is with the Prince Philip combo, singing Malicious, Mean and Scary with the warded Royal Explorer, and then for 6 ink, shifting Vanquisher of Foes, which banishes all opposing damaged characters. Yes, this requires some setup and 6 ink, but in decks like Green-Blue that ramp, you can pull this off on turn 4 by playing a Sail on turn 2, another Sail and a Royal Explorer on turn 3, which leaves you 6 ink to play with on turn 4. So sing the MMS, then wipe the opposing board. Follow that up with a Clarabelle the turn after, and you're in an incredibly good spot. This is all seeming incredibly powerful, but I think the jury's still out on Malicious meaning scary, as despite the obvious power of the card, being able to pull off these types of combos may prove unlikely, so that's why for now it stays at number 7. Right then, time for number 6 now, which is another legendary. Goliath, Clan Leader, is a 6-cost inkable steel character with a 6/5 stat line that quests for 2. He's a hero and a gargoyle, which may prove useful tags, and he has a really unique and powerful ability. Dusk till dawn. At the end of each player's turn, if they have more than 2 cards in their hand, they choose and discard until they have 2. If they have fewer than 2 cards in their hand, they draw until they have 2 cards. So a really nice way of drawing cards there, similar to how a dock draws 2 cards when played. And of course, being a gargoyle, he has the Stone by Day ability, that if you have 3 or more cards in your hand, he can't ready. But correct me if I'm wrong, but that's actually impossible to come into effect when Goliath is on the board, as you're always discarding down to 2 before your turn starts, so Goliath is actually most powerful when paired with the other Stone by Day characters to consistently allow them to ready, even if the opponent has ways of putting cards into your hand to try and freeze your gargoyles. I think Goliath's best home will be in Sapphire Steel, ramping to big characters like himself, Tinkerbell, Hades and Vincenzo, and providing card draw as well as some hand disruption for the opponent is incredibly strong. And who knows, maybe there's something to play around with the hero tag in Ruby Steel, paired with Hercules, so Goliath can't take damage from songs like Strength of a Raging Fire. So for those reasons, and not ignoring the fact that in my opinion Goliath has the best enchanted of the set, looks incredible, he's very deserving of the number 6 spot on the list. Okay then, into the top 5 now. At number 5 is Junior Woodchuck Guidebook, the only common on the list and a deceivingly powerful card. The Guidebook is a 2-cost inkable amethyst item that allows you to exert it and pay 1 ink to then banish it and draw 2 cards. Modest enough, 3 ink in total for +1 card, but no. Throw Tamatoa happy as a clam into the mix, and this suddenly becomes a recyclable resource that can be returned from the discard using Tamatoa and then played again for free to use again, providing consistent card draw for those Blurple decks that have been running clunky cards like Second Star, but now have this inkable resource as well as other inkable card draw options we'll get onto later. So I think just based on the fact it's almost exactly what Blurple needed, and Blurple being the most powerful deck from set 9, the Woodchuck Guidebook is going to see tons of play and maybe open the door for some more item-based decks to start seeing play again. Quickly moving on to my number 4, Webby Vanderquack is up next, just missing out on the top 3. Webby is a 4-cost inkable emerald ally that can shift for just 2 ink. She quests for 2, has a 2/4 stat line and has ward, and has the fantastic ability Work Smarter. Whenever this character quests, if an opponent has more cards in their inkwell than you, you may put the top card of your deck into your inkwell face down and exerted. So at first glance, this card is absolutely incredible, having ward, questing for 2, and having the ability to ramp you. But I think what I love most about this card is that we've been given a fantastic shift option with this 1-cost Webby, who fits so nicely into Amber Emerald dog decks. And that's where I think Vanderquack will find her best home. But another great use for this card is perhaps in green-blue decks, as warded 4 costs suit the curve of that deck perfectly. Having this 4-cost character that is mostly safe from removal that can further ramp you in Sapphire Mirrors and Sing Your Welcome or Sing Together Under the Sea on the Clarabelle shift turn. And we've been spoilt with this 1-cost Webby having an epic version and this awesome enchanted for the legendary version. So yeah, it's safe to say Webby is going to be a brilliantly flexible card going forward and likely feature in most Emerald builds. Into the top 3 now, Cinderella Dream Come True is a 4-cost uninkable questing for 1 with a modest 2/3 stat line. But her ramping ability is one of the strongest we've seen in the game. At the end of your turn, if you've played a princess, which Cinderella is and includes herself, you can put a card from your hand into your inkwell face down and exerted. And this, like Tipo, includes uninkable cards, which provides a lot of flex in terms of aggressive mulligans, which suits Sapphire perfectly, as often you're putting back 7 in order to find your 2-cost ramp, and potentially having to start a game with quite a few uninkables in your hand as a result. So yes, Cinderella is uninkable herself, but allows you to play her on turn 3 to get to 6 ink for turn 4, and clean up some uninkables along the way. And this ability lets you draw a card, which caps off Cindy as one of the top cards of the set, so there's a strong argument for Cinderella being number 2, or even my number 1. But when we talk about the next 2 cards, which you may have already guessed, you'll see why. Naturally, Cinderella slots into the powerhouses like Blurple and Green-Blue, but also really strengthens Amber Sapphire Princess decks, and seemingly makes Blue-Steel incredibly strong, as that deck already features some strong Princess cards that Cindy can further benefit from. You may say that Cinderella performs the same outcome as, say, a Mickey Mouse Detective, as the amount of cards that you end your turn with stays the same. But actually having the choice to ink an uninkable from your hand and having the chance to draw into something you need, in my opinion, is better than blindly inking the top card of your deck. Maybe you disagree, let me know in the comments what you think of Cindy, but I think she's one of, if not the top card of the set. And the only reason she's my number 3 is that the next 2 cards, I think, will see even more play and be staples of the upcoming meta. Number 2 is Hades, one of the 2 iconics of the set. Hades is a legendary Amethyst 5-cost inkable with a 3/4 stat line that quests for 1. And he has a really strong ability that reads, when you play this character, you may choose an opposing character. If you do, draw 2 cards unless that character's player puts that card on the bottom of their deck. So a lot of the time you can ignore the second half of that ability, as I think it's quite unlikely you're going to choose a character that the opponent will willingly remove from their board to the bottom of their deck. So ultimately, 99% of the time, this card reads, when you play this character, draw 2 cards, which is undoubtedly incredibly strong, and this is the card I mentioned earlier that has, in my opinion, made second star redundant in Blurple. As slotting in this Hades, Woodchuck Guidebook and Tamatoa solves any card draw issues that deck had, and it's going to remain one of, if not the, top deck in the meta, which automatically makes Hades one of the best cards. You could say that Hades' stat line or his questing ability lets him down a touch, but there's other synergies with this Hades I'm really looking forward to trying out in arguably the other best deck of the meta, Amethyst Steel. As the new song He Hurled His Thunderbolt, which actually was very close to making my top 10, buffs this Hades as a deity and gives him Challenger +2, which I think could end up being quite consistently used, especially when followed up with my number 1 pick, who we'll get onto in a second. There is an Achilles heel to this Hades though. The new item, the Sword of Hercules, would banish this card instantly and only for 2 ink. And that card's not terrible and could see play, so just be a little wary of that finding its way into opposing decks. Okay then, on to my number 1 pick for the best card in Whispers in the Well. Demona, Scourge of the Wyvern Clan, is in my opinion the best card and the card I think will shake up the meta the most. She's a 6-cost inkable Amethyst villain with a 5/6 stat line that quests for 2. Being a gargoyle, she has the Stone by Day ability, which of course is her downside, but she also has the game-breaking ability Ad Saxum Commutate. When you play this character, exert all opposing characters. Then, each player with fewer than 3 cards in their hand draws until they have 3 cards. So a little bit of card draw which can be manipulated so you benefit more than your opponent, especially when going first, but also that exert effect completely swinging the tempo of any game is going to be so strong. I've seen lots of people express their fears of Demona mirrors becoming an issue, as it really is looking like whoever plays Demona first wins. But I wouldn't worry too much about that. I'm thinking that the reliance on dumping your hand and playing a Demona on curve as your last card could be an opportunity for discard options to come back into the mix. Also, Amber Steel decks having access to singing cards like Strength and Thunderbolt a turn earlier than Amethyst Steel could reduce the opposing board enough so Demona's effect is less impactful. Demona does also have this really nice Amethyst item, Grimorum Arcanorum, that gives all Demona cards rush, and whenever an opposing character is exerted during your turn, gain 1 lore. So similar to Hades, with Demona being Amethyst and slotting perfectly into the 2 best decks at the moment, Amethyst Steel and Blurple, I think it's hard to argue she's the most impactful card of the set, even if she does prove to be one of the most miserable to play against. But as I mentioned, there are going to be ways to work around Demona and counter her. Discard decks, Amber Steel being able to jump ahead on removal, and Green-Blue ramping to their Prince Philip MMS combo are all ways I can see the meta really opening up. I think it's going to be a great set and I can't wait to get started. And with that, my first deck video of set 10 should be out really soon. How does Ruby Amethyst damage fling with the new monster Shere Khan sound? That's it for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed my top 10 cards of Whispers. I have no doubt there's other cards I've missed, so here are some honourable mentions of cards I think are really strong and that could have made today's list. But be sure to let me know of any others you like the look of down in the comments. Thanks so much for watching and see you again soon for another Inkkery video.